When we look at the sheer scale of United States' global military projection, any direct conflict seems entirely unwinnable for an adversary. This data comparing 2026 defense projections highlights a massive financial gap. The United States allocates $831.5 billion, compared to Iran's $9.23 billion. That is a comical 90-to-1 advantage. The disparity continues in this breakdown of combat air power, where the U.S. commands 13,032 total aircraft against Iran's 551. And this section tracking aircraft carriers zeroes out entirely for Iran, while the U.S. maintains a fleet of 11. On paper, this is a one-sided blowout. Any traditional conflict would end in a swift, devastating American victory. Which presents a glaring mystery. If the U.S. outguns Iran's foe completely, why are military planners so desperate to avoid a direct war? The answer is that we are evaluating the threat using the wrong metrics. Iran has absolutely no intention of fighting a traditional war. Instead, they rely on asymmetric warfare. This is the strategy of using unconventional, low-cost tactics to bypass a stronger enemy's conventional strengths, making those massive advantages irrelevant. To understand the actual threat Iran poses, we have to look past the top-line numbers and examine the hidden metrics, where they have spent decades leveling the playing field. On land, the U.S. relies on massive centralized bases and active-duty troops. Iran invests almost entirely in unconventional manpower. Looking at this chart tracking paramilitary forces, we see a stark contrast. The U.S. lists 0 personnel in this category, while Iran commands an irregular force of 220,000 fighters. These hundreds of thousands of irregulars form a vast proxy network distributed across the Middle East. They are designed to operate independently, creating severe friction far beyond Iran's own borders. In asymmetric combat, manpower is rarely used to hold a front line. It is used to bleed an opposing force through 1,000 untargetable cuts. Moving to the air, the reality is clear. Iran cannot compete in traditional dogfights or sustain large aerial bombing campaigns against stealth technology. But this data detailing mobile rocket projectors reveals how they counter American air superiority from the ground. Here, the margin is incredibly narrow, 1,731 for the U.S. versus 1,550 for Iran. By mass-producing cheap, highly mobile artillery, Iran creates a deterrent capable of overwhelming sophisticated anti-air defenses and devastating nearby regional bases before the launchers can be tracked. You don't need a multi-billion-dollar stealth jet when you can swarm the skies with 1,000 cheap rockets fired from the back of a commercial truck. This destroyer data highlights American open ocean dominance, showing 83 ships to Iran's 0. But scrolling to patrol vessels reveals the assets Iran uses to defend its 2,440 kilometers of coastline. Here, Iran holds a 21-0 advantage. This specific fleet is custom-built for one geographical chokepoint, the Strait of Hormuz. In the event of a conflict, swarms of these fast patrol boats, combined with submerged sea mines and coastal submarines, would effectively shut down this incredibly narrow, shallow waterway. By threatening the primary corridor that carries a massive percentage of the world's oil, Iran turns local geography into a global economic hostage. Defense analysts call this the porcupine strategy. Iran's military is not designed to conquer territory. It is designed to be too painful to attack. The U.S. military is a tool engineered for total global power projection. Iran's military is built purely for localized regional denial. Their proxy networks, mobile rocket swarms, and coastal defenses guarantee that even if the United States technically won a conventional war, the resulting economic collapse and human cost would be devastating. In the era of asymmetric warfare, an $831 billion budget does not guarantee victory. True power comes from the ability to dictate exactly how the war is fought.